Hello and welcome to this edition of Reporters. This week we go to the Philippines. Southwest of the country lies the troubled island of Jolo, home to a large Muslim population, and the extremist Islamic group Abu Sayyaf that wants to create an Islamic state in the southern Philippines. Muslim rebels and government troops have been embroiled in a bloody war for the past 30 years. And Jolo has continuously met the headlines. No later than last January, Abu Sayyaf abducted 3 Red Cross workers to have been released since. Backed by US troops, the Filipino army has been trying to crush the rebellion for years to no avail. Defying a ban to enter Jolo, our reporters traveled to the island. Let's watch this report by Cyril Payen and Guillaume Bonnet.
A night ferry packed with people. We are in a port in the far south of the Philippines. We must be quick and discreet as we board. We are traveling clandestinely to a zone off limits to foreigners, where a state of emergency is in place. We are heading into the Sulu archipelago. We are on the way to the small island of Jolo, a sanctuary for the Islamic rebels of the Abu Sayyaf group, experts in assassinations and kidnappings. After 10 long hours in a boat hidden in a cabin, we finally arrive in Jolo City. With the help of local contacts, we walk through a dead city. A curfew has been imposed by the army, which now has full powers on the island to fight the Islamic rebels.
What is it? What is it?
What is it? Marines. Marines?
Soldiers are in total control here. They spot us. A unit of the Marines has just deployed in front of our hideout. We are ordered to stay here. Several high-profile kidnappings over the past few years have been an embarrassment for the government. We are not welcome.
You stay here? Yeah. I'll go with you. You have the firearm. You have to hold the homeboy.
The army is very concerned for our security due to the tense situation on the island. Abu Sayyaf has taken 3 new hostages. We are transferred to the governor's office. He is in charge of the negotiations. He has accepted to put us under his responsibility. It's the only way for us not to be expelled right away. On this day, he is flying to Manila to brief the president on the situation.
And do you think you will come back with good news from Manila, or maybe to have a new way to settle this crisis?
I really would not like to speculate. You'll know when I get back.
We don't know it yet, but we won't see the governor again. In reality, negotiations have broken down, even though time is running out for the hostages. An ultimatum has just been issued. Abu Sayyaf has just threatened to decapitate one of the hostages. They are Red Cross workers. They are being detained in the jungle by the new Abu Sayyaf leader, Al-Badr. After 3 days without moving, we succeed in escaping from the soldiers. We are now on our own. We are easy targets for kidnappers. We are going to meet one of the rebels' emissaries, a shadowy character who is both feared and respected on the entire island.
Al-Badr told me, if you're not doing this, nobody will listen to us. We are all brothers. This is one thing you guys should understand it, you know. If there are some Muslims said that they don't sympathize, you know, with the Mujahideen, they are lying to you. I told you frankly, because they are confronting a common enemy.
For him, Abu Sayyaf are freedom fighters. He goes further and reveals their links with Asian terrorist networks.
I told him after that day I will come to Sulu. They will come to Sulu, because you know they need protection. There is no Mujahideen in Malaysia, Indonesia, and Singapore. Mujahideen holding long arms, because they have no jungle, they have no camps, so the Abu Sayyaf they have.
To prove his claim, he tries to contact Al-Badr, the Abu Sayyaf commander.
So maybe I talk to him.
While he is texting an unknown message, we are hit by a surprise. The soldiers we lost the day before have found us. They have surrounded the house. The officer wants us to follow them, but the emissary planned to take us to Friday's prayers. A strange negotiation starts between the soldier and the potential kidnapper. We film secretly.
Come in. I'm proposing something. You escort them to the mosque, but you cannot go inside. You will station outside.
Finally, we leave. The Abu Sayyaf sympathizer is escorted by the Marines as well, but they don't know who he is. We are on the way to the Great Mosque. Abu Sayyaf guerrillas are said to often be here, and everybody here has sympathy for the Islamic group. No foreigner has ever been allowed inside the mosque.
We have to stand up. We have to be proud Muslims. Our faith in Islam will protect us.
After the religious chief's sermon, Kokoi takes his turn talking to the devoted and inspired crowd.
My brothers, from the beginning of time, from the time of our ancestors, we have been oppressed. But here today, we are united to fight the enemy. This mosque is our camp, our bastion. All of you know it. It's me who has asked al-Badir not to decapitate the hostage. I have convinced him to wait, to try not to kill civilians, and thank God he listened to me. There was no decapitation this time. And what do we get in exchange? The state of emergency and more oppression. So now, there won't be any more concessions with the enemy.
Oppression, enemy, a violent rhetoric against the military, the government, and Christians who make up the majority of the population of the Philippines, because the state of emergency is not well received here, especially as it is coming with U.S. military assistance.
Me, I really don't know what the Americans are doing here. People say they're here to help us, to build roads and bridges. But maybe their purpose is to do some other hidden things.
This time it is impossible to escape our military escort. The Marines take us directly to their base. They have just been on an offensive, and because we are here, the general in charge wants to show us what his men captured on their latest operation. In the war room, American soldiers are visibly present, but they don't want to be filmed. A few weapons, explosives, and passports were seized in the operation. The Philippine Army is actively engaging the Abu Sayyaf rebels. We now understand why the negotiations are at a dead end. It's a strategy that resembles the policy of Washington, which has deployed hundreds of soldiers to the southern Philippines for the war on terror. No negotiations with terrorists.
Abu Sayyaf has been considered an international terrorist organization. They have been receiving during the past, in their early stages, support from the Al-Qaeda. No less than the brother-in-law of Osama bin Laden came here to establish their cells. And it was Ramzi Youssef who came here to Sulu to organize the Abu Sayyaf cells. So if you will see, there is a strong linkage of the Abu Sayyaf with the Al-Qaeda long before. And that was immediately after the Russo-Afghan War in the late 80s.
This is part of the global fight against the Asian networks of Al-Qaeda, born more than 30 years ago on the Afghan front. Some American forces are engaged in secret operations throughout the Sulu archipelago, a little-known battlefield in the war on terror. More than 30,000 Filipino soldiers are deployed here. There's almost daily bombings. It's a lawless zone where we can count nearly one weapon per inhabitant. Jolo is far from being cured of its evils. We take the road to cross the island. We are heading to Indinan district, to the doorsteps of the Abu Sayyaf camp where the hostages are being held, according to the general. He's willing to keep us a little more. He takes us on a public relations operation to explain the state of emergency to local residents. All of these men are largely presumed to be Abu Sayyaf sympathizers. The army knows it very well. At the end of the speech, bottles of Coke are handed out, a very symbolic gesture. The Abu Sayyaf is likely hiding in the nearby jungle. They are evasive rebels who finance themselves through kidnappings. Some billboards here ask the population to give information on the rebels to the authorities, but it doesn't really work. 2 informants were decapitated here the week before.
Here, culture has a very strong influence and affinity. Relatives, usually, whether right or wrong, they will support you. So that is the factor that we would like to break. That is why in our lecture a while ago, or in our dialogue a while ago.
Night has fallen. Olo City becomes dead again. It's curfew. Nobody is in the streets. The soldiers leave on a patrol. They go in an armored convoy.
You go for an encounter already?
Me, not yet.
It's only the first time which is difficult, then everything comes naturally.
The order is given to stop. We are less than 50 meters from the Great Mosque, one of the most dangerous places in the city at night. This street has been blocked. A perfect place for an ambush. But for this time, it's a false alarm. A new day in Olo. It's Easter Mass under heavy security. In this cathedral, a bishop was killed in broad daylight 8 years ago. The Christians here on this ancestral land of Muslims are considered colonizers.
It's true that it may seem strange with all this security, but we have attacks and bombings. Me, I take the risk to come, but I have some friends who don't. They're too afraid.
Other Christians in Olo don't take the risk. They have their church located in a military camp.
The Christians here would be, I would say, a little higher in the level of Christianity than Christians in Manila and other places because they are not challenged. They take for granted their faith. Here, you have to have some standing in your religion to remain so.
But even in this church, Abu Sayyaf and the hostages are in everyone's minds.
To get them out, he got the wife of Al-Badr.
Conflict here has been raging for 30 years.
Father, we share in the light of your glory.
Christians, Muslims, civilians, soldiers, everyone here is caught up in the conflict. It's a place where violence and death roam everywhere. Some even say that God himself has abandoned this archipelago.
Well, one of the reporters behind this story is with us via satellite from Bangkok. Hello, Cyril Payen. Tell us, we see in your report that you were followed the whole time and yet not expelled by the army. How difficult was it to do your job in Jolo?
It became very difficult to work in these conditions in Jolo. I've been covering this area for 10 years and it has become very complicated. Now we are trapped between the security forces on the one hand. This can be seen in the film. They are preventing foreigners from entering because of the state of emergency. And there's a risk of assassinations, attacks and kidnappings. And in the the state in which we found the island, it has been very difficult to work. We were able to get away from our forced escort for one day when the army realized that we had entered Jolo underground, and then we had to play cat and mouse with them, with risks of hostage taking. Nobody has any trust in anybody. In Abu Sayyaf, they're looking for new hostages. They have already taken hostage members of the Red Cross. They're looking for new hostages. This is a very lucrative business. Kidnapping has spread in recent years, and heads have been put up for ransom, so it's very difficult to do our work. We were expelled after 5 days.
Okay, Cyril, we're talking thousands of Filipino troops backed by U.S. soldiers fighting against a few hundred of Islamist extremists. I mean, how do you explain that Abu Sayyaf has not been crossed yet?
The Abu Sayyaf group has formed friendships with the Afghan during the Russian war. The situation is very opaque in Jolo. They're all descendants of rebels, pirates who use Islamism as a pretext. And they're also highwaymen and bandits. And they also benefit from accomplices within the government and within the police and among villagers. So there are a lot of conflicts of interest, and we don't know how to overcome this problem. Washington sees it as a secret anti-terrorist front for the Americans. One of the terrorists who fomented the first attempt on the World Trade Center spent 2 years in Jolo, and the plan of blowing up skyscrapers was hatched in the Philippines. So hundreds of American soldiers are present, and thousands of Philippine soldiers are present, but they can't overcome Abu Sayyaf's
I'm
troops.
sorry to cut you off. I'm afraid that's all the time we have for today. Thank you very much for being with us here. Do join us again next week for another edition of Reporters.